Thank you so much for having me here. As someone from the Gold Coast, I would like to say we are not in Kansas anymore, Toto. It is absolutely freezing, and I've had a lot of people say that my jacket looks incredibly warm. I am in fact incredibly flammable, so it's not a very natural fibre in this jacket. It may look warm, so please do not let me near any of the open flames because I don't think I'll do very well. I'd also like to thank the Adventure Store that Amanda and myself bought thermals from today. We have a brand new pair of merino wool thermals on, and they are currently keeping me very warm. So I'm extremely grateful for Albury's Adventure Store, and I cannot recommend them enough. That is not a free plug. I did buy the thermals today, but it is a wonderful store, so I am very, very grateful that you have that. I don't have any gloves though, so my hands are a little bit cold, but again, don't let me near the fire. It is my absolute privilege to be here, and I do not take this lightly that this is such a wonderful opportunity, because as we know, there are so many people here today who have been affected by suicide. And myself personally, not only have I suffered poor mental health, but I've also had many close friends, very near and dear to me, also take their life. And someone who is very close to me, who I work with, also shared a story with us on the Triple M and with me personally, that he had lost a very dear friend close to him. And it really made me realise that none of us are immune to it, whether we are suffering ourselves with mental health, poor mental health, or whether we know people who are going through it. But we are not alone. And we can tell by the wonderful turnout here this evening, and as you have for the last 13 years, that this is a topic that needs to be spoken about. And we all know that suicide is something that affects a lot of us. We can see that. We also know that those numbers are dramatically increased if you are a young person. It is one of our biggest death tolls that we have is in our young people. It is also increased if you are a First Nations person. It is also significantly increased if you are male, and it is even more times if you are a veteran. So if you have served in the military, your suicide rates are actually higher than what they are serving in the military, which is a pretty terrifying statistic, but it just goes to show that those numbers are very much very high. We also know, as we talk about survivors of suicide, that the people that are left behind generally are left heartbroken. There are so many answers and questions that they just don't have answers to. And that's probably the hardest thing. I think there's so many things that you would love to ask someone before they went, and you just don't get those answers, and that can be really hard as well. We also know that there's so much research. We know there's so much money going into it. We know I've myself personally have studied psychology, and we still have so far to go. We can never have enough awareness. We can never talk about suicide enough, and we can never talk about the people that we've lost enough. We never want to not say their name. We want to say their name more, and that's the way that we can raise awareness. Now, I have a feeling, and in my very limited research, please don't think I'm a psychologist. I've only done a Bachelor of Psych Science. I'm yet to do a whole lot more. But I have my general feeling and a general interest, and think that there's two reasons why suicide might be an issue for us today. And this is an area I would love to research a whole lot more, because I think our community could really benefit from it. But it's connection and it's identity. And I think that's two places where I personally went wrong. And I think that was two of the issues for me that really sent me off the cliff into poor mental health. Now, my name is Leisel Jones. I am a 4-time Olympian, and a lot of you might think, well, how is that even possible? Athletes are so mentally strong. We train for a whole lot of things. Physically, we are in peak condition, and mentally also too, we work extremely hard, and we can get through some of the toughest things in our life when we're training for an Olympic Games. But I'm telling you now, I was not immune to poor mental health when it affected me, and I had no idea that it was happening until it was in the final moments where I just did not want to be here anymore. So it's pretty dear to my heart, and I'm very passionate about being and having the opportunity to talk about suicide, because it is something that I'm hugely passionate about. So there are 4 things I would love to go through with you today, and that is the decline in my mental health, so a little bit about my story and how I ended up getting there, how identity is so wrapped up in the things that we do and believe, and how that can make you come unstuck. I'd love to talk about connection, whether that's with our community or internally and externally, and also the hope and the light at the end of the tunnel and how I was able to find that. If you hear my voice shaking, I am very cold at the moment, so if you hear my voice breaking, that's probably why. I'm not terribly upset, but I'm certainly not immune to poor mental health. For me, going back, if I look back at 2010 and 2011, so 2010 for me, my mental health really started to decline and I had no idea that it was happening. It crept up on me so quickly, and 2010 was really the catalyst for me where I started to lose my way and I just couldn't identify what was going on. But 2011 was when the wheels really fell off for me. I was sitting in a camp in Sierra Nevada in the middle of Spain. It sounds like the most glamorous place on earth, and it probably is, but for someone who is suffering with poor mental health, it was hell on earth for me. It was snowing every single day, snow up to your shins. We were training incredibly hard. It was at altitude, so it's already extremely challenging. You typically, because you train so hard, you lose a lot of weight because it's just impossible to keep on, but for some reason my weight just kept going up. It was frustrating, it was difficult, and it was challenging, and this is where, like a big pimple, my mental health just came to a head, and you just couldn't ignore it anymore. It was a crater that I just could not ignore, and for me, when it got to the point that my mental health was so poor that I was considering taking my life, and I am quite terrified to think of how close I came to that moment. And a coach knocked on my door one afternoon when I didn't come down for lunch, and he just knocked on the door and said, "What are you doing? Why are you here? Why are you not downstairs?" And I'm so grateful for that time, and I have no idea who sent him, but I think I didn't think I was going to get upset, but I guarantee someone sent him, and I'm so grateful. I actually did not want to get upset. But I'm really grateful for that time, whoever sent him and whoever was looking out for him, because not many people get that opportunity. I really didn't think I was going to cry. It was very challenging, and to think that I came so close and that not everyone can be there for everybody else at all times. You can never know what someone's going through. They can be going through it really silently like I was. And to have someone who was able to be there and to walk me through it, I'm just so incredibly grateful. I really did not think I was going to cry. But yeah, it was just extraordinary that I had someone who was able to see that I was not doing okay. And that is not to take blame for anyone who doesn't recognise the signs, because I didn't even recognise them in myself. So that is no reason to blame yourself if you couldn't see it in someone else who was going through something, because sometimes you just don't. And some people hide it really well, and I think I hid it really well for a very long time, and it wasn't until everything just fell apart that I realised that I was really not doing okay, and it needed someone else to reach out to ask if I was doing okay. And it is so wonderful that we have all these amazing days that we do get an opportunity to talk about mental health, because I just had no idea what it was. I swept things under the rug for a very long time, and it wasn't until it came to a head that I was able to really tackle it head on, that I was able to work with a psychologist, I was able to be medicated, and then I was able to slowly get myself out. Now, I was talking about identity before, and this is a topic I'm really passionate about, and identity was such a huge thing for me, and I think it was a huge part of why everything started to unravel for me. And if you could just do me a favour, if you feel comfortable to close your eyes, if you would just, like as yogis would say, just look internally. But if you could just take a moment to think about something in your life that might have been the biggest thing ever to you. It might be having children, or it might be getting a really big job, or maybe it was a promotion, or maybe it was just something significant in your life. If you can just think about that time, and your whole life is wrapped around it. So every waking moment of every single day is spent going towards that goal or that dream or whatever it is, and every waking moment is spent dreaming about making that thing happen. It becomes who you are. It's every conversation you have is about achieving this one moment in your life. It's about becoming that thing. It's almost embodying this one thing that is very external from you. If you can take a moment to think about working towards that goal, and when you finally do realise that goal, that is what identity is. It's when you're so fused towards this one goal that it becomes everything that you are. Feel free to open your eyes if you do have your eyes closed, but imagine what that feels like when that thing is taken away from you. And that's what my swimming career was like. I had achieved that massive goal that I really wanted to achieve, and it was everything in my life. But the minute that the thought of it being taken away from me, my world completely crumbled. And that's why I'm so passionate to talk about identity, because I think a lot of what we do is we get caught up and then we latch onto one thing. And once that one thing is taken away from us, it becomes when your world crumbles around you, and that's exactly what happened to me. So 2008 was my big dream. So winning Olympic gold was the be-all and end-all for me. There was nothing else in my life. I had nothing outside of swimming. I had nothing outside of that goal. And once I achieved it, there was nothing left. And everyone asked me, oh, when you retire or when you want to move on from swimming, I will always be Leisel Jones, the swimmer, and I'm completely okay with that. But it wasn't until I contemplated what life looked like away from that I really came unstuck. And this is where my journey started. So 2008, I realised my dream of winning individual Olympic gold medal, and I was incredibly proud, but I felt incredibly empty as well because I had nothing else outside of it. I had no friends outside of swimming. I had no focus on anything else. I had no dreams and no passion, and it was all taken away from me. So I had to rebuild from there, and that's where it started to happen, where I had no idea who I was as a person. So 2009, I struggled. I really started to decline. 2010, it started to get worse, and I just ignored everything because I had no idea who I was outside of being an Olympic gold medalist. And for me, that was incredibly challenging. And this is why this topic is so important to me and something that I'd really love to study, because I think identity is such a huge part, and it's a lot of what we do, whether it's our work, we identify with being a parent or a child or anything that's part of our identity. But when your whole world revolves around that and it's taken away from you, it's really hard to deal with. And this is where I want to talk about connection. Connection is the second topic that I'm extremely passionate about and something that I want to talk about tonight, but also study in the future. So for me personally, I believe connection belongs internally and externally. And when we talk about internally, it's that disconnection between mind and body. As athletes, we are just a body that works really hard, and we train hours and hours on end for our body to be in perfect condition, to be able to race and to perform. But we always forget that there's a mind that's controlling it as well. We have mind, body and soul, which all go together. And I had disconnected both of them. So my mind was completely neglected, and that's where my mental health really took a turn, because I just did not take care of both. I really took care of my body every single week. I would get massage, I would get physio, I would work in the gym, I would train in the pool. I would do everything for my body day in and day out, but I did nothing for my mind. I did not care for my mental health whatsoever because it was completely neglected and was not important. And even as a youngster, when I was coming up, I was told that we were not allowed to use psychologists because psychologists were for weak athletes. So I was denied access to a psychologist as a 14-year-old girl who was going to her first Olympic Games, and that was devastating to me because I really could have benefited talking about mental health, because I did not believe I was a weak athlete. I believed I was very strong, but I just did not have that connection with strong mental health and a strong body. So that internal connection between mind and body is so important. And this is where, outside of my swimming career and since I've retired, I've really learned about nourishing mind, body and soul and that connection. I do love yoga. That's why I was talking about, the internal look when you do yoga, but I just love that connection. It's something that's really important to me, and I find it very nourishing for my body when I look after my mind as well. So that internal connection is so incredibly important. But it's external connection that I think we sometimes struggle with, and it's something I personally struggle with. So just a little bit of personal insight. I've just moved to the Gold Coast and I've been there for 6 months, and I've really struggled. I've struggled to find my community, I've struggled to find my people, and I've really struggled to immerse myself into the community on the Gold Coast. And I've felt incredibly lonely the last 6 months. It's been very difficult. But it is that sense of community that I'm very much looking for. It's finding the people that that I want to be around all the time and I want to spend my time with and share stories with and catch up with coffee and go to the beach. And I have found very much that external community is very much lacking in my life at the moment. And I can certainly see where mental health takes a slide when you're not feeling that sense of being a part of a community and that connection externally. So that's something personally I'm working on at the moment. So I know eventually I will get there, but I'm very much a Brizzy girl at heart. So who knows if I'll ever get there. But connection I find extremely important. So finally today, I'd really like to talk about the hope and the light at the end of the tunnel. And I distinctly remember sitting down with my psychologist after 2011 when my mental health and contemplated taking my own life. I remember sitting down, I distinctly remember Lisa saying to me, she said, there is light at the end of the tunnel. I was like, who bloody blew it out? Because I can't see it. And I just feel like it's never getting any closer, but extraordinarily it does. And that light will always be there, but you just have to find it. And sometimes you do have to light it yourself. It is a lot of work and getting through it is incredibly challenging. And to be the person that's left behind, especially if you are family, friends of someone who has taken their life, it can be very hard to, I guess, evoke some hope for people, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. So if you are going through something personally, please know. It may not feel like it and you may not believe it, but there certainly is hope at the end of the tunnel. It's a lot of hard work. You do have to work through it, but the first thing is recognising that you may have a problem and that you may want to work through it. It is incredibly brave to go and seek help. I've got a mental health care plan. I'm about to start with a psychologist on Tuesday. It's all about taking that first step, getting in there, really digging deep. It's gritty, it's awful, and it sometimes feel like it's a waste of time, but trust me, it's so worth it because there is hope out there. There are people. Just find your community, find that connection, that sense of identity of who you are. Make sure it's not too connected. Those are my two key things. Identity and connection are so important. I want to thank you so much for having me today. It truly has been an absolute pleasure. I really hope, and I'm very sad. I'm grateful that I've got to be a part of the last one, and I can't wait to see what the future of this event is going to be. This is just extraordinary, and I really, truly feel so privileged to be a part of it. And I want to thank you all for coming out here this evening. I hope you have a wonderful night. I'm very much looking forward to some soup because I'm so cold. My hands are freezing. I should have bought some gloves at the adventure store today. But my name is Leisel Jones. It's been my absolute privilege and pleasure to be here with you today, and thank you so much, and have a good evening.